The Wes Penra Papers. A Journey Through the Multiverse. The Second Level of Learning. http://wespenry.com. Humanity's Future, Paper Number 3. Life After the Nanosecond, Part 3. The New Mind. By Wes Penra, Saturday, November 3, 2012. http://wespenry.com, Part 1. 1. Healing Body and Mind. There is a new disease that has started spreading like a wildfire amongst people all over the civilized world, and it can be quite painful for some of those who are infected. It's quite contagious and foremost affects your neurological system. In severe cases it even prevents you from taking advantages of the downloaded energy from the Sun and the galactic center. In fact, it's not only contagious, but also causes severe addiction, especially in children and young adults. If a person is contaminated in their younger years, this disease can become chronic and affect them for the rest of their life, which normally will be shorter than normal. Which disease am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about electronicism, the misuse of electronics. Ah, that's funny, some may say, that is not a disease. Yes, it is. It has all the characteristics of a disease, and it certainly affects people's neurology after a while. The term electronicism is of course made up, but the rest is not. We are living in a world where people become more and more addicted to electronics, not only from using them all the time at work, but many continue when they come home as well. You see young teenagers walking down the street, and 8 out of 10 are busy doing something with their cell phones, iPods, iPads, or whatever little device it may be. Very rarely, if at all, do they look up to see what is happening around them. They are crossing the street, using their peripheral vision, hoping no one will run them over. I am always careful when I'm driving and see a young person text on their phone while they're walking. These are the devices of the gods. They used similar electronic machines when they were here during Sumerian time, and they, too, were addicted to them, although that was not all the gods were addicted to. Gold was another thing. For us, that will perhaps just be a matter of time, as well, as we want to prolong our lifespan. The gods sniffed it like cocaine, and according to AR, they still do. The main problems with electronics is that they really destroy our neurological system, and the person who is overusing them can get very sick, and it may be painful. Doctors often don't know why the person is hurting, except that they can see it's a neurological problem. The disease does not show up on blood tests. Especially now, during the nanosecond, when the gamma rays are affecting our neurology, it's important not to contaminate it with electronics, or people may miss out on everything they were here for. And don't think for a moment that this wasn't timed by the Syrian Alliance and their human puppets. They knew when to escalate the use of electronics in society. If you look back in time, 1987 to 2012, which is the nanosecond, has also been when the rapid increase in electronics has happened. Not a coincidence. When looking at this at a first glance, it looks like we are losing a generation or two due to electronics, and to a large degree we are. In reality, we will probably lose more than that, as many of our young generation will continue into the machine kingdom and embrace even more sophisticated machines. There is no shortage of technology the Syrians so generously can give us to splurge in. The electronics won't go away, quite the opposite. There is no use in fighting it, but it's imperative that we, who want to work on ourselves and help others do the same, stay away from these devices as much as we can. And believe it or not, but the cell phones are spying devices as well. Big Brother can check on what you're doing even when the phone is off. People normally think that's bogus, but it's not. It's done via the same satellites they are tuned into in order to work at all. It's a piece of cake for the elite to use them as tracking and spy devices as well. On the other hand, there is another kind of people who are growing up right now, who are not into high-tech at all, and some of them are contacting me. They are still in their teens and early 20s, and I am very amazed how aware and conscious these young people are. They wouldn't dream of getting stuck in electronics, they are very well aware of the risks, and moreover, they know a whole lot of what is going on in the world, and they are very spiritually evolved. It's a pleasure to read their emails and see that there is hope. A common denominator with them is that they seem to have been born with their awareness and level of consciousness. That's what the majority of them are telling me. Some of them are very psychic and quite multi-D, and were so before they really knew what that is. Some people call them indigo children, but I prefer just to call them gifted, because indigo children has too much stigma attached to them. It is very important not to treat these children as if they are special in the sense that they are for more than everybody else. We need to acknowledge their abilities, of course, and support them in accomplishing their goals, but they need to be treated like everybody else in all other respects, or we lose them, too. They are a big part of our hope for the future, so we'd better make sure we support them, but at the same time treat them as normal kids. And even if they decide to live normal lives and ignore their abilities, it's their choice. A last advice when comes to neurological problems connected to overuse of these devices: if you experience such problems and think the problems may be connected to this, stop using the devices totally for a while, hopefully forever, and be with nature. Let nature heal the damage that has been done. It is not always helping, it depends on how severe the neurological effects may be, but it should make you feel better after a while. 1.1. Blocked energy and the mechanics of healing along the lines of time. There are a lot of things we can do to heal ourselves. Many of these things we have already discussed in Level 2, but also a lot in Level I, in the solution section. The most effective healing we can do is to let ourselves be upgraded and educate ourselves so we know what's going on. Before we go on, there has been a lot of talk on the internet about that negative information is harmful and fear-based, and people should totally avoid such information and only take in what is positive, love and light, although these people seriously don't know what these words really mean. I want to debunk that once and for all. The only thing that's correct in that statement is that if information is fear-based and there are no positive solutions presented, then it is harmful and will eventually put a person into a depression or state of paranoia. Information needs to be somewhat balanced, but at the same time tell it as it is without sugarcoating it. Most information can now be released to the public, because mankind is ready for it. And those who aren't ready won't read it anyway. Disclaimer: there are some rare things that still need to be kept hidden until mankind is ready, but to keep anything secret from mankind today, it needs to be very carefully reviewed, and the reason for doing so must be very obvious. I wish our history, the true history, was a wonderful one with lots of positive information, but that's not how it is. And because this unfortunately is the case, should we therefore just disregard our origins and all the events that had led to what is happening today, or perhaps only selectively tell stories that are uplifting? If we do that, we can just as well skip it all, because we will forever be stuck in the problems we have, and they will get worse in the future. So, our true history is incredibly important, and is something every single person on this planet needs to know, otherwise they will not progress. If someone tells you that you shouldn't read or partake in anything that is negative, question their agenda. Ask them exactly what they mean by that, and think about what I've said here. Then you should be able to figure out whether this person has been duped him/herself, or perhaps is a secret government agent, or if they simply mean that information can't be only one-sided fearful, because then they would be right. At the end of this paper, I will bring up another important issue on this subject, as well. The greatest healing, soul-wise, mentally and physically, happens when the issues and problems in your current lifetime are confronted and resolved, one by one. We have talked about that earlier and called it healing along the lines of time. Physical and mental issues almost always stem from past, and sometimes future, unresolved issues. If it's not clear what causes these issues in present time, you can be pretty sure they come from inner conflicts, originating in past lives, or future lives, as all time is simultaneous. These issues transmute into blocked energy. Much of this blocked energy originates from issues and problems the person didn't resolve now, in their current life. However, most of us, especially in relationships, have every now and then grinned and bit to maintain peace and to avoid a conflict. Sometimes it goes so far that a person in a marriage or love/friend relationship keeps quiet about how they really think and feel, because they know, or think they know, that the other person wouldn't like it. When we stop communicating who we really are, even if it would cost us the relationship, we create blocked energy, which in the long run leads to all different kinds of illnesses. This blocked energy turns into ridges in the physical body. This can be looked at as condensed energy which is not moving in any direction, but just sits there, blocking any flow of energy. The reason it's not moving is because it's a problem that never got resolved. And the definition of a problem is intention counter intention, which means that someone has an intention, maybe to say something, but the other person has a counter intention, to not being willing to accept the communication, and this creates a problem. So when these two energies, countering each other meet, they create a ridge. The soul does not want to deal with it, so she transfers the pain related to the problem to the body instead and let it store the problem, instead of the soul dealing with it as soon as possible. To make things a little more complicated, there is often a reason why a person does not want to confront their problems in present time. This is because there is one or more similar problems in the past, which were equally unresolved. This can result in a chain of events, causing problems, that go back in time to previous lives, either genetically or spiritually, or both. And just like with a physical chain, when you cut off the first link of the chain, the rest of it falls to the ground, and the person is free from its burden. The problem is now stored in the mind as a conscious memory, but doesn't have any charge to it. The energy can run freely again. Normally, when we handle a problem in present time, we only handle that particular problem. If we really handle it, the next time the same problem comes up, it may be easier to deal with, but now, during the nanosecond, the chain is rattling violently, and when we are handling a tough problem that we find hard to confront, we are not only handling the present time problem, but also the similar problems we had in previous lifetimes. The reason for this is because it's the end of a cycle, the end times, and time is speeding up. But not only that, we are also healing along the lines of time, meaning that the timelines are coming together and are merging with the present. So we have a chance in a million now to really break the chain at its first link just by going to the bottom with the problems that are hitting us in the face in this present life. You may have encountered some strange difficulties this life, and you couldn't understand what they came from. You have equally found them quite hard to confront and resolve, perhaps you just wanted to run away from them and hope they never came back. Maybe you have gone from relationship to relationship because the same, or similar problems show up in each and every relationship you've had. If so, this is a typical example of when you can handle these problems once and for all. It may be a very tough thing to do, but once it's done, you have helped healing yourself in past and future lives, and changed the events for that particular fragment of self. These past life and future characters, who still exist in present time, because time is simultaneous, will then eventually be free and can merge with you, making you whole. These are the mechanics behind the phrase, healing along the lines of time, and it's worth every hardship we may be going through, and God knows I have had my own, because we come out on the other side as much happier beings, with psychic abilities and with multidimensional skills. We will notice the change already in this life, but we are still trapped in the Syrian grid system and need to break out of that to regain our true abilities, as discussed in the previous paper. 1.2. Clearing your energy field. So-called attachments have always been around, where humans have other dimensional beings attached to their body. It's actually much more common than we think. People hear voices in their heads that are not their own thoughts, and they wonder, who was saying that? It's a complex matter, because people get so used to these voices and thoughts, and they know too little about themselves to be able to clearly distinguish which voices are their own and which are not. It's quite easy with a little training, however. First of all, the thoughts you hear in your head, are these thoughts that you believe you would think? If the thought process seems foreign to you, is distractive, repetitive, or changing your personality, there is a problem. You can have either one of the unquiet dead, hitchhikers, or in worse cases demons, or a mix thereof, attached to you. In rare cases, it could be an alien who's intentionally glued his soul to your body. It's important to listen to the voices and thoughts in your head, because most of them are probably not yours. Another option is that you are actually becoming psychic and can read other people or animal thoughts. Do you recognize the thoughts as a friend of yours? Your spouse? Relative? Even your dog, wanting attention or food? Work on being psychic and to distinguish yourself from your environment. If you once have gotten attachments, benevolent or not, they may be difficult to get rid of, unless you are very firm and your intentions are clear. Once you raise your vibrations, the entities normally leave, because they can't hold the same frequency as yourself, but if they still stick to you, you'd better tell them to leave. You need to be quite assertive and authoritarian, but not hostile. Tell them, I know you're there, and whatever agreement we had that allowed you to place yourself there is now void. Thank you for giving me the learning lesson on how it is to have someone attached to you, but now the lesson is learned. I want you to go someplace where you can be around people who love you. If you think there is no such place, you should know there are always people who love you. I want you to leave now and then think of where you can find such a place, or just go back from where you came. I don't want you to ever come into my space again. This body is mine and I own it. If you want a body, you need to learn how to get one of your own. This same message is for any entity that may be attached to me or my body. Of course, the wording may be of your choice, but the example above would probably work pretty well. You may hear these voices coming up with reasons why they don't want to leave, or why they shouldn't leave, but you need to be firm and tell them, what I just said, goes. No delays, no buts. I want you to leave in this instance. No, that's not a reason to stay, either. It's final, and there are no excuses. You may have to repeat your will a few times when you hear the excuses in your head, and whatever you do, don't confuse these excuses as your own thoughts. If the entity doesn't leave immediately, or there may be many entities, sometimes a couple of hundreds or more, if the person has all their chakras wide open for anyone to come in, repeat the procedure as soon as you notice an attachment. Some of them may go silent to try and trick you by your not noticing them, but sooner or later they will make their presence heard, or you can add, those who are silent and try to hide need to leave as leave, right now. When they no longer can find any agreement from you to stay, they usually leave. I hope this helps, and it needs to be done, because about 11 people out of May 15th have attachments. And remember, raise your vibration. The attachments do whatever they can to still keep attached, but sooner or later they will fall off. When they do, or in the meantime, make sure you are not wide open for new attachments to come in. Claim your space and your sovereignty. Also, create the bubble around yourself and say that no one is allowed inside this bubble, unless they are consciously invited, without being manipulative, and only have the greatest good in mind for you and your loved ones. You may want to recreate this bubble every now and then, but with time you'll get good at it, and you feel that now it's there, and it's working. When you have cleared your energy field from entities, you will feel an unusual silence in your head. No voices, no additional thoughts which are not your own, except maybe if you'll get very psychic, now when you don't have your own energy field being messed with. You may hear thoughts from a loved one, knowing it is them by the signature of the thought. If thoughts from others come into your energy field too frequently, it may feel disturbing and exhausting. Understanding it can drain your energy. What you can do is to think of the thoughts coming in as water running or dripping from a faucet. In your mind, turn off the faucet and turn it on when you want to. But again, beware of attachments. Keep your energy field clear and your bubble in place, and only invite certain people to begin with, until you get very skilled. When your energy field is clear, it's time to get rid of residues in the house or apartment where you live. Go and buy some sage in the local New Age store. Some local grocery stores may have them, too, I've noticed, and start smudging the house. Incense works well, too. These two things will cleanse the place until there are no attachments. You may want to smudge both your body and your home to be sure. In my case, when writing on these subjects, it's easy to get attachments and psychic attacks, so these procedures are very helpful. Serious conspiracy writers and exopolitical and metaphysical writers can gain a lot from using these techniques. Having incense burning near you when you write is an easy way to get into the right mood and tune into the vibrations needed to be able to write on a certain spiritual level. Everything changes when you stop absorbing all the energies around you and start emitting your own. Some people, when they have raised their frequency to a certain level, say that it's hard, because they feel everybody else's emotions and energies, and therefore, going into a grocery store for an extended time can be challenging. Having this kind of problem is an indicator that your frequency is higher than it used to be, or if you were born with this problem, you were either born with attachments, or you were quite evolved even as a little child, or both. It's good to become psychic, but in the above case it can be a handicap, too. Hence, it's very important to clear your own energy field as described here, and when you successfully have done so, you will notice the problem is more or less gone. You may still pick up some just because you are psychic and more multi-D, and you are starting to get telepathic, but that's where the bubble comes into the picture. Also, when you stop absorbing other people's energy, which will quickly drain you, unless those around you are of exceptionally high vibrations, you will quite automatically start emitting your own energy. This will make you feel good and more powerful, although not in a negative way. Your self-esteem will increase, your space widen, and you will be more outgoing. All good traits. 1.3 Toning. The reader is, I assume, just like me, you want to separate yourself out from manipulative energies around you. A good thing to practice is toning. This is an old way of changing a person's perceptions. And after all, the universe is basically made from harmonious sounds, even music. We have already talked about the songs of the galaxies, and that each galaxy has her own song, as does each nebula, star, planet, and from a human perspective, every living creature. The Pleiadians say. If you listen to Tibetan toning, you find that each person simultaneously makes a number of tones. The toners are able to carry a variety of tones and notes in one sound. These overtones tend to open and unlock energy doorways, changing your perceptions. Basically, this is what toning does in a very subtle way, it changes your perceptions. At a power site or energy vortex, you can tone with the intention of releasing energy that has been stored or trapped there, and you can tone to merge yourself with the site. When you tone, you create various vibratory rates. At sacred sites of stone, the sounds that you feel trigger data stored in the stones and in your bones. The stones work very well with your bones. The stones feed the bones and the bones feed the stones, sharing data. This is why you hear about shamans using stones and bones, especially in the last few thousand years. Before that, they didn't have to. They had a better connection with the goddess universe than that. Stones and bones both contain information. The stones know the history of Earth since it was created, and the bones know the history of the person and the bloodline that person belonged to. Often, in shamanic tribes, the people saved the bones from shamans and exceptionally enlightened people, to draw the information from them via their bones. It works when you know how to do it. Credo Mutwe, the old South African shaman, whom David Icke became good friends with, uses stones and bones all the time when doing his readings. Toning requires some practice and patience, but is said to be very effective. I haven't had the chance to try it out yet, but will as soon as time allows. As a musician, I can especially appreciate these kinds of practices. Everything mentioned in Section 1, and subsections, 1.1 to 1.3, is important to know, and especially sections 1 to 1.2 are very important to do in practice, because your clear energy and your high vibrations will be needed in the times to come. As the electromagnetic field around Earth becomes weaker, which is happening in present time, physical and mental structures are not held in place like they used to. When the electromagnetic field weakens, chaos occurs. This is inevitable, but is all per the cosmic plan. This is the end of an old cycle and the start of a new, so major things are going to happen. It will be scary for many people, and those who have built their energy will be of tremendous help for the rest, just by being themselves. What is old and can't sustain itself anymore in our current society needs to go, and will go, so the chaos we will see at the end of 2012 and a few years into the future is a restructuring of the old system, and a rebuilding of a new. This goes for both the machine kingdom and for those who decide not to belong to it. 2. Traveling back in time, what happened 5,120 to 5,000 years ago? This is the end of the Mayan cycle, which is 5,125 years long, and not only that, it's the end of the nanosecond, something that doesn't happen after each cycle. This is literally the end of an old human species and the beginning of a new, upgraded version, who will hopefully lead us into a future of more sovereignty. Perhaps humankind will be able to honor the legacy of the Namlu, the first Orion experiment, which was so distastefully destroyed by the Syrians, and with our new upgrades become the new guardians. Still, we need to claim our ownership of this planet first, and we haven't even started that process yet. Just to get a perspective on time, let us take a brief look and see what happened at the end of the last Mayan cycle, about 5,125 years ago. c. 3100 BC, Narmer, Menes, unifies Upper and Lower Egypt into one country. He rules this new country from Memphis. c. 3100 BC, Narmer, Pharaoh, rules. Other dates are 3150 BC, 3125 BC. c. 3100 BC, pre-dynastic period, Neolithic, ends in ancient Egypt. Other date is 3150 BC. c. 3100 BC, early dynastic, archaic, period starts in ancient Egypt. Other date is 3150 BC. c. 3100 BC, the first temple of Tarxian is in use by the Neolithic inhabitants of Malta. c. 3100 BC, first stage in the construction of Stonehenge. c. 3100 BC 2600 BC, Skara Brae, Orkney Islands, Scotland is inhabited. Discovered 1850. c. 3100 BC, Anu Ziggurat and White Temple in Uruk, Mesopotamia, modern Warka, Iraq, are built. c. 3100 BC, humans developed their first writing system, cuneiform script 2. As we can see, there were a few major events happening at that time, but it was not the end of a galactic cycle, when our solar system completes one orbit around the zodiac, and we were not aligned with the galactic center, either. The most significant changes in the beginning of the cycle we are just now completing, are the development of the Mesopotamian writing system, the cuneiform script. This was taught to mankind so we could write down our own history that we've had together with the gods. Of course, it was not the true history, but the Syrians needed human scribes, who could write down exactly what was dictated to them in order to trigger future events, like prophecies. However, when we really think about it, the scribe didn't even have to be human. I'm sure the scribes were males, could be Assyrian in human's clothing, but they still needed us to be able to read or write for future generations to see that humans actually inhibited this skill. The first stage in the construction of Stonehenge. This monument, built on a ley line, has been such an important place for rituals and fertility rites over time, that even today, everybody has heard of Stonehenge. The early dynastic, archaic, period starts in ancient Egypt. This was the beginning of a whole new era. Upper and Lower Egypt unified into one country. Again, a major change in the history of mankind. Egypt and Mesopotamia/Sumer were of course major Syrian centers, and 5,000 years ago, the two empires were flourishing. 3. Blood and sex, and how to integrate the tree of knowledge with the tree of life. The main thread throughout the papers in level 2 is that the goddess creation is feminine. So, what then is the tree of life? Well, it sort of depends on whom you ask. Many people who have dug deeply into the esoteric material of the mystery schools and secret societies have their view on it, while the Gnostics have another. Separate researchers may have their own idea, and channelers only relay what the entities tell them. Often these ideas differ from each other in detail, although the main theme is often the same. It has something to do with eternal life. So, if we make this the common denominator to use as a basic truth, let's go on from there. As the universe is feminine, and God is feminine, and the energy of the universe is feminine, then the tree of life should have something to do with the female as well. And indeed it does. The tree of knowledge has to do with divine sex, sex magic, and the tree of life with the divine blood of the goddess, as we shall see. Here we will learn how to integrate the two to easier be able to break the god spell and connect with the goddess universe, the KHAA, in which we belong. Over time, humans have tried to find a way to extend their lives, which were significantly reduced by the Syrian/Aryan geneticists in the past. This longing for the eternal life of the gods is exemplified by the Sumerian epic of Gilgamesh, he who found the key to longevity but lost it. In ancient times, people understood that the fruit of the tree of life was the blood of the goddess. This will be much easier to understand if we think of our nervous system as a tree. We think that the tree of life has to do with fruits on a tree, but in fact, it is all about the fruits of the body, the secretions and substances that are the gifts of the gods. However, the same gods have done all that's in their power to suppress this same knowledge, because they didn't give these fruits to us, and created our bodies the way they are, for our benefit, but for theirs. They were the ones who wanted to eat the fruits from the human tree. The menstrual blood is a gift from the goddess, and the menstrual periods was something she wanted the females to go through as something sacred. On the battlefield, or when a person hurts themselves, they bleed, but that blood is often associated with trauma, lesser of bigger, and is therefore in that sense contaminated. The menstrual blood, however, is not. Though women may have cramps and different levels of menstrual pain connected with their periods, it is not in general connected with traumatic circumstances, hence the menses are clean. The global elite and other black magicians are using the holy blood from children, females, and men when in a state of trauma, extreme fear and horror, which brings on an adrenaline rush they then can gain power from if they drink it. Although there are PTB deaf that use menstrual blood in their rituals as well, we don't hear about it as much when we research our perverted leaders. It's because they are unable to connect with their victim in a mutual lovable way needed for the menses to have the intended effect. So for the Syrians, the menstrual blood is useless. When the mother goddess told Prince Ea and Princess Nin to create Homo sapiens, she gave us an incredible gift, which is the ability to have sacred sex, and thus eat the fruits from the tree of knowledge. But it is through the blood she had run through our veins, combined with sex magic, that makes us able to connect to the inner sanctuaries of the KHAA. We humans can achieve this between two people having sex during the menstrual cycle. But don't the Syrian women bleed? Actually, they do, albeit they can't achieve what we humans quite easily can achieve if we know how, and I am going to tell you how in a minute. There are two things missing in the Syrian men and women, which makes it nearly impossible for them to connect in such a way by having sex with each other. These two things are pure divine blood, and true, deep love for the partner. All blood, in all beings, is the life force of the goddess, but the goddess can make the blood purer or more diluted as she wishes. Not all beings are most possibly not meant to enter the sacred dimensions of the KHAA too easily. Normally, this is something a star being, or soul group, accomplishes by showing their ability to express divine love. But humans is a very special experiment, and the goddess let us have this ability by letting us humans combine the tree of knowledge with the tree of life and practice its sacredness simultaneously, in one single act. This is a gift almost unheard of in the universe. It may very well be that we are the only experiment in that capacity. In the beginning, when they realized what the goddess had done, the Syrians worked extremely hard to achieve the same thing humans could achieve by having sex. When they failed, they first probably couldn't figure out why, but after a while it became quite obvious. What was required, they realized, was the pure blood of the goddess and a true and very deep love and connection with the partner. So much has been written about sacred sex, and it has been made really complicated, and there is of course a reason for that, of course. The Syrians complicated the matters so that humans forgot how to accomplish the goal. Today, hardly anybody knows how to do it. However, if two people truly have this much love for each other, they may do it correctly without even knowing anything about the story behind it. But even if so, they normally don't know that they need to set distinct goals, or their sexual energy will be hijacked. By hijacking these energies from two lovers, the Syrians can experience a watered-down version of what is actually possible. So, from their perspective, as usual, it's best to keep mankind ignorant. For the goals of sacred sex to be achieved, two human beings must not only love each other, truly and honestly, sacred sex would probably work between two women as well, and know each other very well. They also need to keep no secrets from each other, and to be very honest in their relationship, even when comes to their own needs and wishes. When this is accomplished, and these two people have sex, especially during the menstruation period, magical things can happen. The eyes are the mirrors of the soul, so both persons would gain so much more if they keep eye contact during the act. This way, they can see the emotions and the ecstasy in each other's eyes, and they blend together and become as one. Although this works between two women as well, the male sperm has its own magic, and adds to the process. And the woman giving away her most inner secrets by sharing her blood with her lover is the ultimate gift she can give a man. During the act, the man also has the opportunity to drink from the fountain of the goddess, and they both get electrified. When the orgasm comes, the explosion this creates in the 4% as well as in the KHAA is a merge with the goddess herself. The power in that, but also the whole sex act, is enormous. Therefore, it is extremely important to set a goal before you have sacred sex. What do you want this powerful act to accomplish? It could be anything from empowering oneself so you can use this extended power to create good for yourself, your family, and your friends, to extend the effects to include the whole planet in a positive way. Anything in between is great. Sometimes, when something needs to be healed and repaired in one's own life, it is perfectly okay to let the energies go in that direction. What the goals are is your personal choice and something no one else has any say in, but it's very important to set the goals so that the energy are not hijacked by the Syrians in the astral. Like I've described before, the Earth, seen from the astral, is a planet full of explosions, like erupting volcanoes shooting their lava up into the atmosphere. These are the energies of people having sex and orgasms down here on Earth. It's easy for the Syrians to suck this energy in as much as they want, and nothing, or very little, go into the KHAA, which was the basic intention. As I'm sure the reader understands, much has been done to suppress this knowledge, and the bleeding cycle of the woman has been degraded to something dirty and messy, when in fact it is the ultimate share. This doesn't mean, of course, that a man and a woman should only have sex during the menstruation periods. Sacred sex can be done anytime, if the right love connection is there between two people. They can still achieve goals that are very powerful without the blood connection, by just sharing their emotions and by looking into each other's eyes during intercourse. This way, it's not only the second chakra that's involved in the sex act, but all the upper chakras as well, and it even opens up the 8th to 12th chakras outside of the body, which are normally quite closed while being stuck here in 3D. The Syrians can never do this themselves, even if they seduce a woman to such a degree that she is fooled into loving him dearly, which happens. The problem is that he can't love her back like she loves him. It's currently not in their system to be able to feel that much love. The only true love they can feel is the love for power and technology. And that's where they want humans to end up as well. And we will, unless we change our ways.